which
Yeah, it's always
I have done
painful.
with my friend Christina, and we spent like 5 hours setting up OBS and all the
Let
plugins for sounds and all those stuff. It
let me
was
know. I'll send you. Mache made a quick
thing.
tutorial. I'll send you that.
Oh,
So I
there we
guess
go. I
we're
think
live.
Oh, so
Let me know. Hello
yeah,
everyone. Welcome to the stream. Today I have Sava Zivkovic. Is that it?
that's pretty good, man. Yeah, that's pretty good.
probably the
And
first person
and
to pronounce that well.
and Milan NIkolic. So I don't know. Do you guys have a name for your collective, or is it just?
No, not yet. We're still just a bunch of freelancers and friends who kind of occasionally come together and try to drink some beer and try to create something together. So we are maybe working towards a collective or a company or something like that, but still it's a long process to go. So yeah, we're taking it very slowly.
Yeah.
Cool. So basically, so we have these two talented guys today who made the, how'd you call it? They made the last IFCC 2017 main title, which if you haven't seen it yet is worth watching. I'm actually going to find the link and share it right now. And I'm actually happy to have you guys on because when Raul Marx made that intro for what's the name?
Semi-permanent.
For semi-permanent, and everybody lost their shit. And I know he's a one-man, studio, and it's super damn impressive. But sort of seeing another main title that sort of takes it even like to the next level, in my opinion, is mind-blowing. And I'll ask at some point, like when we get there, I'll ask about the whole time warp thing. But I'm like the biggest sci-fi nerd, and I have never seen that shit anywhere. So we'll have to get into that. But yeah, while I look for the title, if you guys could introduce yourself, and as always, people in the chat, you're going to see a lot of awesomeness today. Any questions you have, just put them in the chat, put a Q in front of it so I know, so it stands out, and I'll run through them with the boys. So yeah, go ahead, guys.
Yeah, go first.
Okay, just to differentiate the two of us, because we're two bearded Serbian guys. This is Milan to the right of me, I guess, and I am Sava, and
To my left.
Yep. And yeah, basically we're just a bunch of friends from Serbia. Regarding the whole IFCC titles, there were a lot of other people involved, but the two of us are here today. Myself, I'm actually I studied interior and furniture design, and then slowly, or rather fast, actually shifted into the world of 3D. Done a lot of motion graphics, a lot of architectural visualization, and then kind of recently switched into the whole short film concept art kind of world. So yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be a graphic designer. Actually, I wanted to be a concept artist, but back in the days, it was kind of hard to get any tutorial and stuff and to talk with people who are into industries and stuff, especially in our country. And at some point where tutorials were available online, I just switched my career to graphic designer to concept artist. That's it. I'm kind of freelancing so far, never worked in studio, but so far 4 years in freelancing, yeah.
So 4 years for you, and Saba, how long have you?
Also, yeah, professionally since 2012. I've started my studies in 2008, and that's when I got introduced to 3D. So I did some gigs here and there during my studies, but I wouldn't call that professional work. And as soon as I finished the school from 2012 up until this day, I've been also a freelancer. Never worked in a studio, which is probably gonna change soon enough. But yeah. So that's like 5 years already. Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what about life? Oh, we don't have a life.
How do you call it? If you're not working in a studio, like I'm sure that's going to change very, very quickly.
No, we probably don't work in studio because we don't want to. We have a lot of opportunities, but we kind of realize we are maybe ambitious too much, and we want to do our stuff. During the time when you're in studio, you probably don't have that much time to work on your stuff. So,
I mean, that's not to say strictly that we don't want to, but like all of the the timeline thus far just didn't call for it. I mean, we were pretty happy freelancing, and that got us the opportunity to work on personal projects like this. Yeah. But now it's definitely starting to change, and we'll definitely see what happens in the coming months.
A lot of things happened right after IFCC.
Yeah, that's one of the
opportunities.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the benefits of doing these personal projects, is that you do get a lot of opportunities that you never kind of thought could happen, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if Milan can talk about his stuff, but I talked about this with Ash, and I'm actually this October, I believe, I'm gonna start directing for Access Animations. Access Animations is a studio based in Glasgow. They do AAA game trailers.
Okay.
And they saw IFCC, and they invited me over to basically direct for them, which is the stuff I always wanted to do. I mean, when I started, I was always Blur was one of my biggest inspirations ever. But I never thought like you can go into that sort of work like this. I always thought you start your way up and start working through the ranks before you become a director at a studio. But nope, they just saw it. They brought me over to show me their operation, and we'll see. October should definitely be an interesting month.
Guys,
great.
I just have to rewind this part. Like, you have to explain to me how this came about.
Yeah, we're actually missing a very important person today for that part. We'll just call him is Svemira. He's the guy.
He took all the credits for that part.
He's a composer and a graphics designer, but I'd say he's one of the most responsible guys for that effect, because the first effect, I mean, we could jump into it later. I have actually the first version on my PC right now that we can show, which looks like complete shit. But then it's all about that collaborative and team effort, because when you are working on short films like this with a very limited time frame and a very limited budget and people, you kind of have to make decisions rapidly and kind of have to just be in this mindset of getting things done. And I was, not completely satisfied, but I was like, okay, we don't have any time to devote more to this effect, and I was just gonna leave it the way it is. And then Iz came with his version, and then I iterated upon that version, and then that's the final effect you see, which is a really super simple effect. When you just look at it, it's just a box that scales and rotates, and that's it.
Yeah,
but it is, I guess,
the concept behind it is pretty damn good. Like I said, like, I've probably watched any sci-fi TV show, movie, anything out there, and this is generally what you see is either the blink, it disappears from one place, like into a dot, reappears somewhere else, or you have the Star Trek effect or any of those, but you never have the environment switching around the ship. It's always the ship that moves. But like you said, we'll get there. Let's just sort of run us through how, okay, like when you had the idea, I don't know if this was a personal project that turned into IFCC's main title, or if this was specifically for the main title, but how does it start? How do you put the team together, and how do you start planning, like, for the project?
So
it probably happened. That was one of those days when we had drink, and you know that hype after you're drunk, like, we're gonna do that. Fuck it, we're gonna do that. It probably happened like that.
Okay.
Stars. I will talk about that more.
Milan tries to make it sound more sophisticated than it is. But yeah, it was some alcohol involved, I guess, because had we been sober, we'd never agreed to do something as ambitious as this. But yeah, basically, at one point, like how we all met, we we're all freelancers, but at one point we were a part of this basically like a design collective, and at one point we shared a collaborative working space, and basically, yeah, sitting around all day next to each other, we're all working on our own projects and our own client stuff, but sitting right next to Milan and seeing his stuff from day to day, I'm like, damn, we need to make something together. Like I see his characters. I've never modeled a character before, but I wanted to try it out because.
And you regret.
And I regret it. Like really soon after, I regret it like so hard because he has all these weird abstract shapes going into his design, and trying to model that is a nightmare. But basically, how it started for us is we did this quick project, like we mentioned at the beginning. Milan used to do Twitch streams himself, and we basically tried to come up with sort of an intro to his Twitch stream, and try to learn a lot of new stuff in the process. So we made this short animation that you saw, I think, which was called Twitch Loadout, and that was supposed to be an intro to Milan's Twitch, which he never used, by the way. So everybody who's listening, feel free to give him shit about that, because we worked our asses off and he never used it.
It's gonna happen.
I'm calling you out live.
This stays on the internet forever.
But we did, no, but we did that, and it was really about the learning opportunity. I did the modeling and the animation for that one. Milan did the character design, and our friend did the music. And then since we did that, because Milan was already a two-time speaker at IFCC conference, basically Marco, who is the organizer of the conference, saw that, and he offered us the opportunity to come and present on the IFCC, like present how we made that project and everything. And we
talk about
basically a day before Marco contacted us, we came up with the idea of, okay, let's try and contact Marco and offer him, like, pitch the idea of us creating the main titles for the event. Like that was the deliberate thing. It wasn't like a personal project that turned into the titles. We deliberately wanted to make the title sequence. But yeah, like we thought about contacting him, and like tomorrow Marco contacted us, asking us to come and give a presentation, and then we just used that opportunity to be like, yeah, we'll definitely come, but we have another idea. How about we create the whole opening titles? And he was like, yeah, guys, go for it. And that's kind of the trade-off with titles. Like what most people don't realize is that usually the titles that are done for conferences are done for free, completely for free, and that was definitely the case.
It's trade for exposure.
Yeah, but this is like the right kind of exposure. Like you do get a lot of those things when clients will come to you and say, you'll get a lot of exposure. Yeah, but what kind of exposure? Like,
yeah.
And for this was actually a good kind, because all of the 65 plus speakers saw it, and they're like pretty big names in the industry. They all shared it around. And I'm pretty sure that all of the opportunities that we got as a result from those titles came straight from those guys sharing it around. So the trade-off is you're doing the titles for free, but the trade-off is the benefit is that you're doing whatever you want. So you're basically making your own thing. You're working on your personal project, the stuff that you want to make, and using all the benefits of marketing and exposure you're getting from the conference itself. And that was kind of it. Basically, since then we just sort of dove into the concept stage and kind of figured it out along the way, because the tricky part is we were all I was definitely in the luckiest position of them all, where I did have a couple of good paying projects and could say no to clients, and took the 5 months out of my life to devote to the titles. But yeah, unlucky for the other guys, they had jobs that they had to do. So it was kind of a tricky thing to manage, but
everyone's schedules and all that.
Yeah, I guess we kind of pulled through. Like the biggest thing was Milan was supposed to design everything. Like he was supposed to be the guy who's gonna art direct the whole thing, but he at the time was, I'm not sure if we can say this. Can we mention this? No. But he was at the time he was working for Six More Vodka, and
I didn't have time to work on a personal project.
Yeah, he was so. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but
yeah, I just didn't have time because I had to move to Berlin back in the days, and there's something happened, and I didn't move there, and that was actually the time when I just jumped into project, like really jumped into project.
Yeah,
it was kind of late, but we kind of figured it out, so we made it in a way.
Yeah, that's one of the things that was the most difficult to manage, because like at the end he was only able to design the main character and the spaceship. Everything else I had to do on my own, just kind of winging it, and I'm not a concept artist by any means, so it was kind of bashed together, I'd say.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was definitely one of the biggest, I'd say, obstacles, because working for Six More Vodka, it's insanely tasking. So he wasn't able to devote his time to the actual project. So
everything started after we made a Twitch. So we have like a bigger ambitions to make something a way bigger than Twitch, because we kind of learned through all mistakes that we have done in Twitch video. And after that, just IFCC pop up, and we kind of wanted to learn a lot of new things out of it, and to explore even more, to see what we can do as a team, and like to at the same time to build our personal portfolio. And it was kind of really interesting project, because every one of us have had a completely freedom to do whatever we want, but at the same time there was a pretty good communication between everyone. So we kind of constantly talking about what's good, what's not. We kind of have
it was supposed to be basically the project that we that every one of us could use as a portfolio piece. So every one of us was working on its own thing, and
so everyone would have benefit out of the project.
Yeah, and that's why.
Go ahead, finish.
How long did it take? No, go ahead.
I was just saying, like from beginning to end, like how long what were the different phases, and how long did the overall project take?
The overall project took 6 months, roughly. 6 months was so my part for the 3D production of it. I should just go ahead and quickly. Do you want to switch to my screen and just kind of show the people who? Yeah, it's still playing the animation.
Oh, because of delay, probably.
Okay, yeah, sure. I just want to show, like, this is, for the people who may be watching this is our presentation from the IFCC conference, actually. So I'm just gonna go and like go through all the people who were involved. Basically, so we had the guy next to me, Milan, the kick-ass concept designer. His work speaks just.
I paid him to say this.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, that'll be $100. So Milan did for this project. He did the character concept and the spaceship concept. Then we had Mihailo Radošević. I don't have the names here, but I can link them all in the chat. But Mihailo, he's a friend from school, my friend from school. He did the character model. He also has background in interior and furniture design, but he switched to production design.
Okay.
He worked on a couple of feature films that were being produced in Serbia, and actually worked in a couple of awesome studios as a modeler. So he got the modeling down. Like, his modeling is insane, which I will show later. I have all the wireframes and turntables. And for the main character, we needed someone who is way more experienced than myself in character modeling. So he tackled that, which was like the main asset in the short.
You could probably do that, but it will take you so much.
I just didn't have the time for it.
So Milan, do you generally work in 2D, or do you also model in ZBrush and all that?
Well, I'm doing 2D, but Sava showed me some plugin. It's called like concept art converter. So you just click there and
No, that's a no,
that's
that's a recent joke. But seriously
Okay.
now.
No, I was doing 2D only.
Okay, good.
I was kind of I didn't know anything about 3D, but I always wanted to jump into concepting in 3D because I'm kind of following the industries and I know what will happen probably in the future, and that's the reason why I want to learn 3D because everything is happening so fast and you need to catch up with all that. So just at the time when we were working on IFCC, I jumped into ZBrush, and that's how I start. So I kind of fell in love with ZBrush. Now I'm doing a 3D code and kind of marvelous designer and keyshot and all those stuff, and I'm into 3D concepting right now. I don't do drawings anymore. I think maybe some overpaints because it's quicker.
Okay.
But yeah, it's new transition for me. I'm still learning. I have a lot of stupid questions for Sava and for my friends who are actually doing 3D, and they don't want to hear all those stupid questions. And when you start something and what's UV maps, like they slap like fuck.
No, but yeah, he definitely he's underselling it. But his 2D skills are off the charts, man.
Yeah.
And like just jumping into 3D now, I'm eager to see where he goes with it because it's a game changer.
I'm kind of just trying to translate my design language from 2D into 3D. And it's kind of a way easier than to draw and paint because you don't care about perspective, values, all lights, all those things. You just focus on design, which is really great. The only thing and the only probably issue is to kind of learn software. Mm-hmm. But once you're into software, everything else is super easy to do. So yeah, that's why I believe 3D is kind of better for concepting nowadays.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, especially if someone doing stuff like this, because you're kind of a step closer to production phase, so you can help your team. Like, if you give them just 2D artwork, they had no fucking idea how that looked like from other angles. So if you do 2D concept, 3D concept, and it took you like the same time when doing 2D, but you can show them, and they also had a base, and they can remodel
that's a big difference, and I can speak to that because when we did Twitch, I worked off of his drawings, which were like orthographical drawings, front, side, back view. And it was so difficult to model, but for the IFCC, he actually did his concept sculpt in ZBrush. And when he provided that to Mika was just able to basically do a retopo of the model and just add details where it's needed.
It's still rough, really rough, but
really
there's a silhouette and a base mesh. So
it gives a great head start. It's insane how much it's helpful. Just to quickly wrap up with the guys, just not to keep on these slides for too long. We have Christina. She was working at Take One, which is the motion capture studio, who helped us out on the project. Mm-hmm. They are like insane. They do like motion capture for most AAA games. They have a really big ass capture studio, and they were more than happy to help us out. Which is like they're just awesome guys.
Yeah, without them we couldn't make it.
Yeah, it was definitely gonna be a different thing without motion capture. But since we did have an established working relationship with them for the Twitch stuff, they were just eager to help us. So yeah, big shout out to them.
Awesome.
This is kind of different for everything, but this is Nenad. He's also a schoolmate of mine. He's a product designer still. That's his main thing. Although he's also a 3D artist, and he worked on the ship model. But this is like his usual day-to-day stuff. He likes to do furniture and product design and stuff like that. Next. This is he's a composer and graphic designer, and he basically on IFCC he did all the graphic decals on the character, on the environments, on the ship, stuff like that, and also completed like the score, the music and sound design for the whole piece.
Did he take care of the UI stuff as well?
Yeah, UI as well. Okay. It was his first time dealing with like sci-fi UI, and it was my first time trying to animate it all, which was kind of insane.
And it turned out perfect.
Yeah.
We didn't expect that, really. I mean, not from him because he never done that, And when Sava sent me like this animation, I was like, wait, what? Is this like ours?
He kicked ass. Yeah, he definitely kicked ass with that one. And we can talk about that as well later on, how we like try to keep it, I guess, vague and metaphorical. But yeah, lastly, this is myself, and I already introduced myself at the beginning. So basically, like, these were all personal projects, some motion graphics, architecture stuff like that.
The truth is, he is actually camera guy.
Yeah, I just kind of move the camera slightly to the left or slightly to the right, and that's it.
That's what he's doing.
Awesome.
Oh, sorry, you're cutting off. Okay, yeah, we can hear.
Awesome. All right, so all of you guys got together and you had a timeline. So you have 6 months because you need to deliver this thing. How do you manage and make sure that, you know, you're progressing like on time, things are being delivered? How is the time management around the project?
Painful.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I don't even like now when I look back at it, like, I don't know, like most of the time when you do projects and you kind of look back at them, you don't know how you did half of the things that you did. So, but to me, again, it kind of seemed effortless, really. I mean, this was by far the most fun I've ever had, like working on something. So, I mean, sure, there were stressful situations and times when you're not sure if you're gonna pull it off or not. But yeah, for me, it kind of seemed effortless. Like the timeline-wise, I don't even remember when we started, but the three of us, the three of us is Milan and myself. We got together since we did that Twitch intro, and we got together and started brainstorming about the whole idea. And the thing is, like, I do a lot of motion graphics, and I'm in love with all those motion graphics titles. But I mean, I really wanted to try and bring something different, especially for the concept art world, where we wanted to create basically a short film which could be relatable to concept artists as well, not just like be a cool intro. I mean, I do love those, but we definitely wanted to try something a bit different.
It's kind of different audience, so it's really important to like nail it down.
And again, this is like also one of the things that's like previously you're always thinking about title design, like having to be some sort of abstract whatever thing. But then you look at the Ash's titles to Off Barcelona, which is like a 12-minute short film, which is like, okay, yeah, I mean, I guess you can do that. So we kind of jumped into that. That project was kind of green lighting us to, okay, well, maybe we can make a short film out of this.
Yeah, I think it's the best way to, especially if you're going to you know, an event like IFCC, it's such a great way to set the mood for the rest of the event, because you come in, you sit down, and the first introduction to the event is this really epic short that takes you in a different space, and that's generally what I love about sci-fi, like when it manages to sort of break take your mind away from your daily life, your daily routine, and just puts you in this imaginary realm that still feels as though it could happen, or it feels possible. Like it has the same, that's one reason why I really enjoyed, for instance, Oblivion, the feel of it, because it feels real. It's not like a Star Trek or something. It feels like it's legit, and the same feeling I had with Oblivion is what I'm getting out of the IFCC main title, like that like satisfaction. No, it's mind-blowing work, man. Like to be honest.
Yeah, a couple of guys who definitely inspired us is definitely, like you mentioned, Raoul Marx is one of my heroes. Ash as well. His work on the off titles just gave us that push to try and think of it as a short film. And then lastly, but definitely not least, Mike Hill. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but
he's one of my favorite designers just because of the way he thinks about things.
Yeah, then you know his talk about the whole hero's journey, which is what got us to think about the concept of the short. so this was like some of our core concepts that we want to kind of be relatable to the concept art audience, I guess. And then we saw that breakdown of his where he talks about the whole hero's journey story structure and how it's done in like 90% of the films. I mean, I was familiar with the hero's journey stuff before this project, but the way he explained it was just mind-blowing to me. And yeah, we definitely went that route. I mean, from that point, it was pretty much clear of what we wanted to do. So it really just took, like, I guess 2 or 3 days of the three of us getting together and like brainstorming some ideas of what we want to do. And we had like a rough outline after maybe
in the first 30 minutes we already had like idea in which direction.
Wasn't the 30 minutes.
But we kind of set up that's kind of
definitely
to be explored.
Definitely the first day of our ideation process, we had kind of the rough idea of what we wanted, and then it was just about fleshing it out with pre-visualization. So yeah, that's kind of how I mean, we can, I don't know if you want us to elaborate a bit on the whole
do whatever, if you feel it's important, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I mean this is the stuff that we kind of didn't want actually to try and explain to people like what the titles actually were. But I mean, if you just look at it as a story, as what you see, like, yeah, you have a guy who goes into the other dimensions and he tries to find something. Maybe the city is dying. Maybe he goes to find an alien artifact and brings it back to save his race or whatever. Like, if you look at it just like that visually, that's it. But all of the stuff that we put into it was like subtext and metaphors and stuff that we wanted to convey to all of the concept artists. So we had
generally related to creative, like,
yeah, it was definitely like meant to be as to show the creative journey of an artist. So you have the beginning where he walks in his like body language. You see he's unsure of himself. There's a group of people looking down at him, like that feeling when you want to do something and you feel that there's a ton of people just looking at you, and the pressure,
the anticipation,
you go on this journey to find your inner creativity, I guess, if you want to call it like that. And then along the way, like those transitions, those interdimensional jumps are actually like personifications of the deadline. So the way we treat the technology is each time he jumps, he has a certain set amount of time to research like that dimension before it would automatically jump into the next one. So that's basically a deadline, an artist's deadline. You can't stray too far in your search for your creativity before the deadline hits you. Yeah. And what you need to do is basically at the end, when he ejects, you have to forget about that. You have to go into the unknown and find the thing you're searching for. We do the whole, like in the whole hero's journey stuff, you come back to the ordinary world when we switch back at the end. Mm-hmm. Where you're back, where you started, but you found the thing you were looking for. So maybe you had it all the way along, but you just had to go on that journey in order to find it. So that's basically like our story and what we wanted to convey with the.
I think having, you know, I'm sure people in the chat are enjoying this because. Just and you were mentioning Mike Hill. Like, Mike Hill doesn't, if you guys don't know who Mike Hill is, try to like actually Google him. He has a couple projects he's done for Call of Duty and other games or movies, and he goes about explaining the entire logic behind his design decisions, and in the same way you're seeing this slide, the hero's journey, that sort of takes you, it's like these little mind maps that help you limit the amount of mental decision or mental strain to go from point A to point B, and having, it's hard to find these if you don't know where to look or if you don't have the education or the knowledge, and that's sort of, I think, where a lot of designers get or artists get stuck. They have this crazy idea they want to do this amazing project and whatever not, but because of the lack of education or knowledge, it becomes overwhelming and they stay there, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But this slide is super interesting. But yeah, go ahead.
I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Like that's the stuff that you can never see. Like the average, I mean, not the average viewer, just any viewer cannot possibly see what we were thinking when we were making it. But I think that they can feel it. Like all of the comments that we got, like people can feel that there is something going on, something is drawing them back to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's the stuff where that kind of separates you. Like you have to invest in these little stories and in these little metaphors, and just by thinking of them, I think it kind of shows in a way where it seems rich. It seems like there's something going on behind it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's basically, I mean, that's all the stuff that we learned on this project, really. Like we've never done anything on this scale before. Yeah. And that's like one of the greatest things from the projects like this is that you actually learn a ton of things from them. So
cool.
So yeah,
good and bad.
Yeah. And yeah, since I mean, do you want us to continue, or do you have any questions? Like,
there's a question from Danda. He was basically asking, like, I know you, Sava, you took time off to work on this, right? Like you took a bit of time off, but how, he was asking about the daily routines. How much work were people trying to put in to make sure that, you know, they were doing what they had to do? Like for Milan, if you want to talk about it, like what was your routine working and working on the title?
Especially for this project, it was hard. I told you that once I kind of quit that job, I had a lot of time. So that's actually the time when I jumped into this whole like pipeline. But yeah, I mean, it's really, the more time you spend on a project like this, everything will look way better because you're kind of focused on that. And the more you're focused, you have like that continuously work, and you kind of you have a clear picture in your head what are you looking for. And I don't know how to say that, but it's really important just to be focused only on one thing if you really want to make it look really, really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can't, I don't want to speak for the other guys, but like I'm not a big I wouldn't say I'm the best at time management. I don't use like spreadsheets or stuff like that. I usually just write my stuff down in a notebook, and just for me, I don't know if I've came into the situation of not being sure if this is gonna happen or not, because like I love this stuff and I basically live for it. So when I look back at it now, it seems kind of effortless, but it was a lot of work, and you kind of have to keep encouraging yourself, like it's gonna be good, like it's gonna turn out good. When you're stuck in a certain problem, just shift to another problem and or make a render out of something just to make yourself feel good, I guess. Yeah. So there definitely was a time when I set myself with like daily goals and weekly goals, mm-hmm. of what I needed to accomplish in order to push it out. But after a while, like that was one of the problems, because I'm not used to working like that. I kind of just feel it out basically, and since I wasn't delivering on my own goals, like I started to feel really frustrated, and I basically had to forget all about it and just do my usual stuff, which is just work on it. And
you actually know that you're into it when you don't look at your clock and you don't have like a time, what the time it is. Yeah. So that's a good advice I would also give is panic early on rather than later. If you panic early on, and be all like in the first day of production, how are we gonna manage this? You're gonna work your ass off in the first couple of weeks, and you're gonna make a lot of progress in those weeks. So then later on, it's gonna be a bit more easy, I guess.
unlike keeping it all cool and then panicking 2 weeks before the deadline. So that's never good.
I mean, you made that Krugel, what was the name of the
Kogel, we have
we had all that like
the mind maps, Kogel it.
Yeah,
one of us could jump like in whatever time to see what we were looking for, what he set up to do, what's the plan and everything. That was really helpful.
Yeah, that was definitely helpful, but it was more used for like the concept of things and the direction of things and just setting up basically the responsibilities of each and every one of us. And when you have that shared across all of us, it's easy kind of to grasp what needs to be done.
Yeah, but at the time when you open that, you actually see how many things are out there. And you're just like, okay, I couldn't remember all of this if I don't wrote it out. So it's kind of helpful to see, oh, we also talked about that. Oh,
that was kind of a learning process as well, because we've never collaborated on something this big before. And because I was working on the biggest production side of things, I had it all in my head, how it's gonna look, what needs to be done, etc. But every one of the other guys, like they had no idea. They were just working on their own stuff, and they had no idea of how it all comes together. So we needed to basically do it wasn't weekly meetings actually, but every once in a while, every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we would all meet. And I'd share my progress with them so everybody could see like the bigger picture of what it looks like.
We kind of brainstorm about everything, like current status and everything, like what has to be changed, what actually looks good and all the stuff.
That's also one of the biggest things I would recommend to people trying to work on stuff like this is at least have weeklies, like weekly meetings where everybody can see the progress and I looking back at it now, I wish we've done that more, but that's kind of it.
We know for the next time.
Yeah. Do you think it's totally fine if you can, but do you think you could show the Kogel it file, or is that more?
Oh, I don't have. Let me just check. I think I have it.
If you don't, we can jump into the design part.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I have it offline, so I have it in a PDF file.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, let me see. Oh. I mean, this was just kind of mashed together of how we did the so metaphors.
It's scary.
Metaphors or subtext we wanted to include, like journey to finding oneself, deadlines, eye imagery, the artist's eye. Maybe introduce some Rorschach symbols, which we didn't do it at the end, but that had to do with the psyche of the character, getting out of the comfort zone or their protective shell and stuff like that.
Part, probably for
then we had the protagonist, which is the astronaut, the explorer, non-military. We wanted to keep it straight up exploratory. He's lost, trying to find his way. The antagonist is the time, the technology, remaining jumps, all the natural phenomena. There's not aliens or any external threats like that. The antagonist is actually the things he tries to fight with. Environments. I mean, this is just super rough because this is for ourselves, so it might be like maybe somebody's looking at this like, what the hell is this? But this is just like basically it's internal. It's quick notes to keep yourself familiar with your concept and what you want to do. Like
but
one
it's
of the
super
fun
helpful
things,
to keep you on track and avoid wasting time.
You can see it's going nuts here with the references for the music. This was his section. The artifact, which is like also one of the important elements, was also like iterated between us. The first idea, which I can actually show if I just find it somewhere. Let's just see. Sorry for waiting.
Yeah, I can sing in the meanwhile.
Let me just see.
Milan, there's a question for you in the meantime. Someone's asking, for your recent pieces, did you paint over a render in Photoshop, or did you paint them in ZBrush because they're trying to figure out a workflow for themselves.
Oh, all right. So usually how I start, I mean, if it's like a grounded character, I usually start with a base model from DAZ, put it in ZBrush, and work on all the design, armor, and stuff. So I kind of try to do paint in ZBrush as much as I can because it's easier, and you can see it in 3D how it looks like. So what I do next is kind of do a quick render from ZBrush or maybe into Kisha, depends on what I want to achieve, and do just a quick cover paint in Photoshop because some things are actually easier to do in Photoshop. I mean, it just took you less time to do it. So it's kind of all the base. So from 3D, that's why I'm trying to move on because it's way faster and looks way better.
Oh yeah, this is like I just pulled this out. This is one of the early test renders when we just had the regular placeholder astronaut model from basically what's the name of the site, 3D Warehouse. But yeah, like all of the initial ideas were homages to Space Odyssey, like having like your generic sci-fi sphere or having a monolith or whatever. A character would come up to it. Sphere, yeah, just a generic sphere. It would then morph into okay, these are just tests. It would then morph into a plane. The character would see the reflection. So that was one of the things not many people got at the end when the surface of the artifact changes. Our character is kneeling, but in the reflection, our character is standing. And that's one of the things we didn't have the time to deliver how we wanted to. Basically, in the reflection, he's seeing the future version of himself. He's seeing the thing he yearns to become. And then when we do the transition at the end, he becomes that. Basically, he becomes the future version of himself. So it was supposed to be like an homage to Space Odyssey, like your typical monolith structure. But then again, iterating upon that came up with the idea. He saw this beautiful reference of I think it was a lake in Iceland where you have these amazing rock formations, and then in the distance you can see a perfectly smooth lake, almost round in shape. And yeah, like he thought it would be a better transition, which it definitely was, to keep the actual artifact flat, so our character could walk on it. And instead of like a camera going horizontally around the artifact, the camera would then go vertically. It wouldn't be an expected transition as this one was. So these were some of those early test renders.
Oh, that thing for camera, that was actually Sava idea because he's camera guy. So
yeah, but it was definitely like a work in it was definitely a team effort thing. Like that's one of the biggest takeaways for me on this project. Like you could never do the things on your own that you can do with a team, because you have your own ideas and stuff, but without anyone to challenge them, and without anyone to provide their own vision for it, and kind of mesh those. Yeah,
you need to accept all the critics and everything is really important.
Yeah, I mean, you're still. It's still up to you. I don't want to like sound like a big director asshole or anything, but at the end of the day, it is up to you to decide which ideas you're gonna implement. But you definitely need to be open to all of the suggestions, because the best ideas we had for this came from the collaboration from the whole team, and then just iterating upon those.
Yeah, I mean, I think the things that you have done by your own already looked super cool, but there was just a little iteration by us, like the whole team. And when you implement all those tiny little changes, it turned out way better.
Yeah,
it's actually just little changes, nothing like so drastic.
It's the little changes that became really significant in the end, because like, again, it would have looked much different had I worked on it by myself and not listen to anybody else's ideas. So you have to be open for that stuff.
It's pretty awesome. Milan, can you walk us a little bit through the character stuff?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, can you?
Yeah, you go ahead and talk. I'm just gonna find the slides.
All right. So after the first day when we met and talked about that, I mean, that night I tried to do a concept. So this is what I have done like the first night, right? I mean, literally this little piece. So I took kind of.
This is over a DAS model?
Yeah, it's over DAS model. So I just took a DAS model to have like a basic pose and to brainstorm a little bit about the design, because it's supposed to be grounded, nothing super fantasy stuff, whatever. Actually, previously there was like similar concept. I had done like, no, this wasn't on the first day, sorry. It was like similar concept. So we talk about that, like, is this direction in which we want to go, and everyone was like, yeah, let's go.
Just to jump in real quick, one of the early ideas we had for the look of everything was that this is all set in like so far away future that everything looks like way different than what you're typically used to in sci-fi settings. So, and that's playing to our strengths. And when I mean our strengths, I mean Milan's strengths, because he's really has this organic design going on, and that's the stuff that kind of separates it from everything else too. So everything he did influenced later what I did with the interior of the hangar and keeping the organic flow of everything going.
Yeah, I mean, I see every day because I'm kind of following our station and all artists and stuff. And what I see every day is a lot of badass artwork, like really good quality. But the idea is generic, like 98% of ideas is kind of generic. So I kind of believe that I have freedom to explore, to do like more organic, kind of natural elements to implement into sci-fi like settings or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the guys like from Team Sava and everyone else kind of like that idea. And we also wanted to relate organic stuff, like to character feel more related to organic stuff than to cold hard surface like elements based on his armor and stuff. So we had also a lot of like a cool idea for his helmet and materials and everything else, but we just realized that we actually don't have a time to do all that. It's kind of good idea. Maybe it didn't.
It definitely was. It definitely was. I think a unique thing. It had to do with a lot of concept ideas for the film. So that stuff we showed in the Coggle, the Rorschach stuff. If you're not familiar with it, anybody who's listening, Rorschach is those symmetrical symbols used by psychiatrists to determine, like, I don't know, some psychiatric tests or whatever. So we thought about using those in shapes in the helmet itself, which are going to be animated, basically clouding the vision of our character, and then at the very end, when
be colorful. So
and to be, yeah, it was definitely influenced by all those colorful animations of like
arty stuff and everything.
Colors merging together, like you've seen those on Vimeo every single day. They're pretty awesome. But incorporating that element into the vision of our character, keeping it dark and keeping the Rorschach symbol could basically like inform.
Yeah, so Sava had that idea that if we do that on his helmet, it can be done actually, but the problem is it will be a lot of distraction. We wanted to focus more on the story. So if you put that stuff into his helmet, it will just be super distracting from the story, and all the focus will go on his head.
It's not even like super distracting. It's like you have this character walking around, and then all of a sudden there's some movement going on in the helmet. And it's kind of weird. It's just weird, I guess. Like
if you can't back it up with the story, it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, you can back it up. I mean, but that's the thing. Like it's all strictly visual, so you don't have the time to explain it.
Exactly.
And when you look at a shot of him walking around and there's some movement in the helmet as well, it just doesn't feel natural. At least to me. Like that's why I decided to pull it, because it was too distracting just looking at him walk away, and there's something going on which you don't understand what it is.
Yeah, I mean, in general, visually it will look great, but the problem, it will just not fit into story. So we can accept not to do that.
No, it's from my standpoint, it fits in the story. It's just too distracting. Like
yeah. So you can just slide. Okay, so I made this, and go to next one, please.
Let's just show the people like
we're gonna go back to that one.
Okay,
I just
okay.
want to talk about. Okay, so I made that previous concept, and it's gonna. Okay, can I adjust the next one? All right, so
this one.
I almost done with this character from like front 3/4 perspective, and it wasn't completely done. So what I wanted to do is kind of just do a rough concept into ZBrush, because I wanted to see him like how he gonna look like in 3D space. So based on my concept, I had done concept in ZBrush, and at that time I just realized how actually hard it is to do a 3D sculpt based on someone's concept. So that's why it's really important for concept artists to get into 3D, so they can really realize how to do or draw whatever, so they can actually explain to 3D modeler what they wanted to tell with that kind of shape or whatever that is. So I kind of model it, and I have done like a quick render from the back and just did overpaint for the final, but yeah, get back in the previous. So this was just a rough sculpt, but I believe it helped a lot Mika to do a final model based on this rough sculpt. I mean,
This was definitely helpful. I mean, as a 3D,
just speed up the process.
as a 3D guy, I can speak volumes to this. Like this is so much helpful in the production stage. I mean, this is pretty detailed concept sculpt as well. Like you have pretty much everything here, like down to the small details. It just needs to be done for production, basically in good topology for the production. And this speeds up the workflow like insane. So Mika could just use this model, do a retopo over, and basically, yeah, tidy it up where
it's
it
pretty
needs.
damn good.
Yeah.
And how long was this after you started using ZBrush?
Oh, I was just at the beginning of using ZBrush, so I was kind of new. I just used a couple of tools, like just a couple of sculpting tools.
I freaking hate him for that, because I tried to learn ZBrush like I don't know how many times. I've just gave up on it because I couldn't wrap my head around it. And Milan just kind of started using it. This is like after 2 weeks of ZBrush for him. So like I freaking hate him for that.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, the main struggle between me and everyone else who also knew a lot of different like 3D software, using 3D software, is they're already used to some UI and how in general 3D is working, and I'm kind of completely new and I had no idea. So that's it.
Yeah, I guess.
And it's gonna work.
I guess that's a common thing I've heard a lot of concept artists talk about. Is it's easier to transition from being a 2D concept artist into ZBrush, because it's kind of similar to drawing in a sense, than to being like a 3D guy working in whatever, Max, Maya, Cinema, whatever, like trying to just get around that UI hurdle of ZBrush is, I mean, for me, it was,
Oh, you don't have a gizmo in ZBrush? Fuck this shit. I was like, what's gizmo?
No, but he definitely, this is really
yeah.
helpful.
All right, so I have done this, and I also have done a spaceship. I mean, this was like a rough sculpt of just the concept, like generally how it's
There's
gonna
a
look
delay,
like.
by the way, so.
Yeah, I know. And the voice is also late. So yeah, this was like sketches, also done in ZBrush.
Sketches.
Yeah, I mean
sketches, like.
No, it's pretty damn good, man. It's
no, it's actually pretty rough. I mean, if you zoom in, so you can see it's kind of really rough. But yeah, we can talk about it. It's kind of good start, like so we can brainstorm in which direction to go. And also there is a final you can like turn on. Switch to final. So it's kind of the same process. I mean, without dots, because yeah, it's character based. So also it was helpful for production, and I wish that I knew ZBrush a bit more back in the day. So
this is more than enough, man. I'll tell you, this is more than enough. You don't.
Yeah, I'd say it's more than enough for sure. Like this is super helpful stuff.
Like
so
the shapes are so unusual and
yeah,
like how, you know, in terms of like visual vocabulary, like I know, for instance, Von Ling, heavy poly, like he'll use the 80-20 rules, or he'll use design principles to help him make decisions so as to make sure that the look of his pieces are slightly different. Like, is this more just gut feeling, visual gut feeling for you, because you know you've been experimenting and drawing for such a long time that these shapes come naturally, or do you actually put some work, some research and stuff like that to make it look different from what you see online generally?
Well, I have done research previously when I was working 2D. I mean, everyone was doing like general like practicing drawing portraits and all those stuff. I was like just do a bunch of different shapes, and I was trying to pull out something out from it. So it's completely abstract, but I wanted to make it look good. Okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't meant to be anything like it doesn't meant to have any purpose for anything. So I was just playing around with shapes and kind of exploring and wanted to do from mess to make something cool. And I just kind of implement all that into 3D too. And also I was studying a lot of like bugs and insects and stuff, and that's kind of have a lot of influence into my design, I believe.
This was for the ship itself. There's a bone in your skull that's called spheroid bone.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, that was one of the
first initial idea.
Yeah, one of the shapes that influenced the ship itself.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was.
But I mean, I don't want to speak for Milan, but yeah. I guess he does everything by gut feeling, which you can't teach.
Yeah.
You definitely.
It's hard. It's really hard. I kind of trying to catch up that energy like as faster as possible, because if I spend too much time in a rough and sketch phase, it's lost. You don't have like that energy. It's like just thrown away. So it's really important to catch that into like really short time, and you get that like rough idea, and you just spend time to like polish it a little bit more, and that's it.
And these are like pretty fast as well. Like how long would you say it took you to design the character and the ship, like in total?
3-4 days maybe.
3-4 days. There you go. Hire him.
Yeah, hire me.
No, it's good. It looks pretty badass.
And there's also interior. I kind of here's the struggle. I know only ZBrush. I mean a little, and I kind of make some just some rough shapes and stuff. So I kind of called Sava, can you please just render this into 3D or whatever, because I don't know how to put camera into ZBrush model, because it's not work like that. And he just set up a basic light, and he gave me like really rough like this scene. And I just do a paint over in Photoshop, like all of those.
And this is definitely one of the...
This is done in one day, I believe, also.
Yeah, this is like a day for him, and a nightmare for us modeling this, because we just didn't have the time to put in the detail and the attention that he did, and we had to simplify it in favor of production and in favor of time. You just have to. These are the things that you have to kind of learn to deal with. Like, you can't obsess with every single detail, because you definitely should. Like, if you have the time and the budget for it, you definitely should. But with these types of projects where you're insanely limited by time, you just have to go in and have to make hard decisions of, okay, we don't have the time to model everything, every little detail in this. We're just gonna hide it all in the lighting and keep it all pretty dark and silhouetted and out of focus. And
put some fog in there.
Yeah, it's you have to make those decisions, because otherwise it wouldn't get done. Like, again, all for it. If you have the time for it, you should. But we're not living in a perfect world.
Yeah.
So
I mean, especially if it's not gonna be visible, like in a scene. Especially,
I would definitely prefer it to be visible, man. Don't get me wrong, but but yeah, you have to. You just you don't have the time.
But
to
I think there's something to be said about not showing everything. Like I know what's his name. Ridley Scott does that. A lot of the big art directors like always sort of keep a good amount of the scene of the camera like hidden in shadows, and that does something to the mind and the imagination, and I think this is one thing that I feel also makes this short successful. It gives space to your mind to fill the gaps and like fill in the shapes and extend that in the frame, which is pretty awesome.
Thanks, man. We really appreciate it. We just want to give a quick shout out. Marco, the organizer of IFCC, is here in the chat. So what's up, Marco?
Hey, Marco.
Thanks for allowing us to do this, man.
And also, you can just show quickly seat. Yeah, which one?
Milan, just a quick question before we move on.
Yeah.
Someone was asking did you mainly use Dynamesh or Dynamesh and H polish? I don't know what H polish stands for.
Yeah, it's brush. Yeah, for the hard surface, I use H polish and I don't know, trim polish and all the stuff. I mean, it's all Dynamesh, so I don't know how to do with topology and all that, like next level shit. Okay. Just end up doing Dynamesh.
This was like the seat itself was a pretty interesting thing. Like rather than trying to design it and then when you put a model in it with the animation, you figure out, oh, it doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
We had motion capture data before Milan designed the interior of the ship and the seat. So what I could do is he'd put out a rough models of the chair. And then I'd import the model which had animation on it and see how it was sitting in the chair, where it had penetrations, where it needed more space, so that could influence Milan's design as well later on, which was kind of an interesting, I'd say, unusual situation for concept artists.
Yeah, because if I was drawing only this seat, I really had no idea how the character will just walk and sit and everything. So Sava just showed me his screen and show me where's the bug, like where his hand going through the chair and like what to put slightly smaller and what to move and stuff. And it was like ongoing. Like I was changing and sending you like OBJ constantly, and it was like, all right, this weight is fitting.
Oh yeah,
let's move. And yeah, that's it. That was really great experience. I mean, for me, really like. Yeah, that direct communication with production phase, it was like mind blown for probably for all concept artists, because you as a concept artist, especially if you're a freelancer, you're kind of really isolated from all that like production process and everything, because you actually don't have no idea what's going on out there.
Well, I'd say that's the case with freelance. I guess.
Yeah, not in studio.
In studios, you're pretty much involved, but I guess with freelance, you have that disconnect with the actual production of stuff. But yeah, that kind of concludes the concept of it. I mean, I can just play some.
I'm down here, guys.
You're not getting out easy. Like this is like the turntable for the final finished character, which Mika masterfully did. Like you can see all the freaking detail in the normal maps and stuff like that.
And he also didn't have time to make it look.
He also had limited time with this, but he kicked ass at the end. We had different sets of textures. He used the Substance Painter for this one. Okay. We had like the clean version, the slightly dirtier version in like the middle of his journey, and then the scratched and fucked up version when he crashes at the end. So that's 3 sets of textures which are really easily produced in Substance, because it's all kind of procedural and you can just switch them off and on. So yeah, that's
pretty damn impressive. Like what?
Yeah.
What are the softwares? If you think from beginning to end, can you list like the softwares used like for the production phase?
Yeah. So for me, I work in 3ds Max, and that basically goes back to if anybody asks why Max, why not Maya or Cinema? I mean, you can do this stuff in whichever software. They're just tools. For me, it's Max because of my early days in architectural visualization. Max was just, it had better support for that, so I just kind of stuck in that workspace. Mm-hmm. We used the Quixel suite. We used so this is again some wireframes. We used Quixel suite for texturing of the spaceship, and we used the substance painter for texturing of the character. Milan used ZBrush for the concept. Mika also used ZBrush for character detailing. These are just like final wireframes. Post-production was After Effects, and that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, we used the World Machine to generate all the terrains. And we also used some plugins, like it was all rendered in Octane. I'm a big Octane guy nowadays. It's just insanely good. And we had Fume Effects for the smoke simulations and stuff like that, which is, Fume Effects is like a huge software used in most VFX. Every single explosion you see on the big screen is done with Fume Effects. And those guys, they're actually from Croatia, and they were kind enough to provide us with the license
thanks, guys.
for this. Yeah, Substance guys as well. They provide us with all the licenses, and that was pretty neat. You can see this is the interface of the substance. Yeah, that's I think the main software packages.
How long did it take to render this? Like, did you do it locally, or did you send it in the cloud?
I did it all locally. So I have I'm rendering in Octane. I have one workstation with 4 980 Ti's. It's pretty damn fast. Like okay, so this is just I'm just gonna skip through this. It's pretty damn fast. It's I think like in total the whole rendering took like maybe 2 weeks. If you put it back to back, it was really fast. Some frames were just like 40 seconds a frame with 3D motion blur and 3D depth of field. It was insanely fast. I mean, when you look at it, it's just an environment, which is basically just a displaced mesh, and that environment is only lit by an HDR lighting, so it's insanely fast to render. The longest renders were the interior hangar shots, and those took maybe up to 6 minutes per frame.
That's so, pretty fast, man.
No, that's insanely fast. Like I used V-Ray before back in my architectural visualization days, and V-Ray is still, in my opinion, the best and the most versatile render engine out there. But in order to use its full potential, like especially when we're talking about animations, you need the support of the studio, you need the support of render farms. With Octane, you can do it all locally, and it just works fine. I mean, and these are not like the best looking renders. They're definitely noisy here and there, but again, you have to look at it like you have to look at the bigger picture and not be concerned too much about that stuff, because otherwise, again, it's not gonna get done. If you look at the film as a whole, like, would it benefit in the end from having less noise in some areas here and there, or would the whole feeling be the same? Like, it's pretty much the same. If I had cleaner renders, the final output, I mean, it would be the same. The feeling you'd get from looking at it, it would be exactly the same. Yeah. So, and I also
actually love noise.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of film noise. I actually add noise in post as
well.
Even more noise, yeah. So
yeah, it sort of hides whatever. Like once you go into post, like you can hide a lot of that stuff.
That's the reason. Yeah,
cool,
that's definitely
cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you have any questions or what we're gonna. I mean, we can do whatever next. We can show some of that jump stuff, UI stuff, environments.
Yeah, we have about 20 more minutes. People in the chat, if you have any questions, post them up. I know someone was asking if you had a rough of the first animatics.
Yeah, I have that, but it might be. Let me just find it.
And while you're looking, someone's asking, how did you render the UI? Was that done all in After Effects, or?
Yeah, it was all After Effects. I kind of made a decision to keep it all really close up because we needed that information. So it was all After Effects, and it sped up the process really, really well. In some shots, it did require the comp between the two. So in some wider shots, I rendered out the sequence of the interior, and then I exported the camera from 3ds Max to have the same camera in After Effects, and just composited everything in After Effects, because that way you can control the timing on those animations much more easily than you would importing it into 3ds Max and rendering it.
So wait, UI is not rendering into Octane?
No.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that you can render all these things in After Effects.
Yeah, After Effects is pretty damn good.
I'm still learning from this project.
I can't seem to find the previews.
If you can't, it's
maybe-
fine. We can jump into the UI. If you find it later, we can play it. But
Yeah, I'll find. I mean, it was a while since I opened the project folder, and it's all over the place. So I'm trying to grasp my way around stuff.
Maybe you can play process video.
They've seen the process. Let's just see this. So okay, this is the jump thing. So what I did at first was, okay, I don't have any time to devote to. I mean, this was the most, I guess, complicated effect to pull off. So what you do at first is you use the tools that you have. I don't know if you're familiar with Kerry Smith. He has this Division 5 YouTube channel. He talks about a lot of cool stuff, and he has actually one tutorial on Gumroad.
I see. Yeah, I see who you're talking about.
Yeah, and he basically distills it down perfectly. What plugins are telling you is you walk into a sand pit, and what plugins are telling you, hey, if you take this bucket and you just fill it up with sand and you turn it up, you've made something. You made a castle. Good on you, buddy. So you're kind of defaulting to the things that plugins are telling you to do, and you're not kind of thinking outside of the box, I guess.
Yeah.
So the first thing for me was, okay, I'm gonna fire up After Effects. I'm gonna generate some procedural fractals. I'm gonna use those fractals to displace the geometry in 3D and create this cool looking tunnel. And when you see it actually like running live in Octane, it definitely has this like feel to it, like seeing it run live. And then you do basically like a first animation test, which is like this. Whoa, let me just, I messed it up. Okay, here we go. Whoa! And you're like, whoa, yeah, that looks great. That looks great, man. And I show it to everybody else, and I'm like this, and everybody else is like this. Like, what the fuck is this, man? and then you basically do your Google search, and you find this. Like, everything is. I mean, you've done pretty much the same thing that everybody else has done.
Exactly.
And at that point, came up with the idea. Okay, keep it a tunnel, but just put it like a reflective metal surface to it. So I did the first like animation test, which looked like this. And like this is super rough, but you can definitely see the potential in it. Like you can definitely see it looks way more interesting than. Oh, this is the wrong one. Sorry.
Yeah, it definitely looks better. But yeah, the idea of the tunnel has been used like so much. Like that's pretty much the only way generally like FTL traveling is portrayed till today in like beside Blink, like it's FTL in a tunnel.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and this is, I mean, the first version of the metal look, like it was just the change of material really, but it kind of informed like, okay, this definitely looks more interesting. And just the only thing I did after that is just change the cylinder into a box.
Yeah.
And that's my contribution to it. And just like animating it with the correct timing and the build up and everything just brings it all together really. And I mean, that's one of the biggest, one of the most common comments we definitely got was that effect looks really unique and different.
Man, it's the best. It's the best effect I've seen when it comes to FTL traveling. Like I'll just say it. It's the most satisfying. And what I love about it, it makes you think about the technology behind it. That's how good it is. Where you're not going into this tunnel for, you know, a certain amount of time. It's literally like it happens so fast. It informs the time, the context, the technology that's around like at that time, and so it just just because of that small effect, you've added so much more to the storytelling without saying anything.
Thanks, man. I'm glad it reads that way, because yeah, that's definitely. I mean, we definitely are proud of it.
Actually, we didn't saw the final, and when he showed me like the final before we published it, I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And it turned out like perfect.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely
pretty damn good, man.
And that's also like this image sums it up. Like, this is how you get it done. It's not gonna be a one man job. Though those situations do happen, but they are pretty rare. You have to basically rely on teamwork. And yeah, that's basically it.
That's pretty awesome. Guys, if you guys have any last questions, now's the time, because we're going to wrap this one up. It's I have to say, this is the best stream I've done so far. It's so awesome. And and if you notice, I didn't do that much talking because the content was fascinating, the comments were amazing, and yeah, like when work speaks for itself, like you don't need to do much, which is great. I know someone's asking how long did it take to implement the like to create that effect, like the FTL effect, the time traveling effect?
Like really, like the final thing, it was a matter of days, really, like a couple of days. Since working in Octane, like that quick preview render they showed, that render is done in maybe an hour, so
Okay.
you can really iterate fast upon the animation side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So when I showed the first version, tomorrow I started working on that second version.
Yeah.
And in the matter of, I guess, 2 or 3 days, I had it pretty much nailed down. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a pretty quick process because the effect is
It's
so
probably
simple.
all about idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, the effect is really, when you look at it, it's just a box that scales and rotates 90 degrees and then scales again.
Yeah.
It's the simplest thing ever, but it is effective in a way. So yeah, I had to pull up this slide because this guy couldn't be here today. So hey,
Who
he
is
is
this?
kind of spiritual. He's the composer. He
Okay,
was
nice.
actually he was the guy who drove the character. He was on the motion capture stage. So he unfortunately he had a family emergency. He couldn't be with us today, but yeah,
We'll
kinda
have
wanted to-
I'm sure we'll have another stream, and if we can have all three of you guys, it'll be awesome. I think it's been an hour and a half. We're going to call this one a wrap, but guys, Milan, Sava, it's been a great pleasure having you guys, and you guys being able to sort of break down and explain what, like, the ideas that were behind your decisions and the way you came about making this piece, like, very clearly and effectively. Yeah, people love the beards, you know. But yeah, like, we definitely need to have you guys on again, and yeah, thank you so much for making this one happen, man.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thanks for having us, Momo. This was a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, guys, so we will see you again next Sunday. I don't know who I'm going to have yet, but these guys are definitely going to be coming up again on the schedule. And thank you for watching the stream. We'll catch you guys sometime soon. Peace.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.